morning. Welcome to our afternoon session of dialogues on behalf of the Christian Recorder. Once again, I'm Antoine Seawright, and I'm so happy that you decided to join us this afternoon, this evening. Let me know where you're from. Let me know your district, your bishop, your home church, and let me know how you're doing today. For this is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. It is 7:15 here in Orlando, Florida, for the 51st quadrennial session of the AME Church, and we're so happy. I am so proud to have, and I want to get her name right, the pastor of the historic Murph-Emmanuel AME Church in North Highlands, California, Dr. Carietta Cain-Grizzell. Born in Washington, D.C., yes. College educated, college graduate, well-trained, knows how to preach the word like nobody's ever heard before. But most importantly, she has a deep-rooted history going back to the state of South Carolina. And recently, yes. Well, let me just say welcome, first of all. And thank you for taking the time to join us for our Christian Recorder Dialogue. For those who may not know much about your congregation, your church, give us the Sunday school version about the historic Murph Church.
Murph-Emmanuel is in North Highlands. It was actually founded in 1984.
That's a year before I was born, just so
right.
you know.
Right. Yes. By the Reverend Tyrone Hicks, who is now retired. And so it's been a wonderful experience. Murph-Emmanuel is doing great, and we're just happy. I'm happy that you have invited me to come today. We're just a great church, celebrating our 38th year.
Yes. Now, I mentioned kindly or briefly in my introduction, you have some deep roots and ties to my home state of yes. South Carolina. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, my great-great-grandfather, Bishop Richard Harvey Kane, was sent to Charleston by Bishop Daniel Payne in 1965 to rebuild the church that had been burned down by the planned insurrection of Denmark V.C. And so he went there, and he felt like a lion bound of being the pastor of Bridge Street in New York, and wanted to really do something with the newly freed slaves. Pastoring in New York was not his thing. It's not his thing. He wanted to really get into the action, and he felt that the action was in the South, and so Bishop Daniel Payne sent him to Charleston.
You know, Charleston, I oftentimes refer to it as God's country. If you go to Charleston, you listen close enough, you can hear the angels singing, because that is God's country. But you know, you framed it nicely, a smooth transition for us. As you know, some of the things we've seen in history find themselves being repeated today. Yes. I talked about Murph-Emmanuel Church in North Highlands, California. You've had your own bump up against, so to speak, with church vandalism and so forth. And as we were talking offline for a second, you even had an incident happen today. Yes. Frame for us what you have experienced as being the pastor of Murph-Emmanuel and how that kind of compares to things we've seen in our history.
Yes. A few years ago, not long after I started pastoring there was racial epithets that were put on our door, the N-word and other racial epithets on some of our signs, and then we called the police, and there was some investigation, but they were not able to find anything. And then just here recently in September, I believe August or September, the same thing happened with racial epithets and KKK and other, kill 'em ends
So Pastor, you're saying in 2021, you have people writing things like nigger
Yes.
on a house
Yes.
of worship.
Yes, yes, yes.
Very much so, like we've seen in the days of my sharecropping grandparents and generations before them.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm sure you are reminded of the AME Church's history and how we experienced church burnings and vandalism and all of the things. And so, from your perspective, because you have a little more miles on your engine than I do, what do you think that says about the time we're living through and the time we're living in?
Well, it says that we haven't got very far from where we were hundreds of years ago. And in fact, there are some that are trying to take us back even 150, 100 years ago. And even sooner or closer with Jim Crow-ism, and it's, I mean, I'm appalled at the way our, human beings can't accept other people who are not like themselves.
Reverend Grizzell, how does you and your congregation respond, or how have you all been responding to some of the things you've had happen to your church?
Well, one of the interesting things is after everything was in the paper with this last incident, I got calls from many white churches.
Angels.
Yes, who are trying to change and trying to be transformed into God, into the people of God. And so there's one particular church, an Episcopal church, miles away, 100 miles away, and they have come to us, and right now we have a group from their church and a group from my church who is meeting twice a month to
bring the community together.
Yes, bring the community together. And so they even come to worship with us when we have parking lot services. They love coming to Murph-Emmanuel, even in spite of the farness of Murph-Emmanuel from that particular church.
Well, talk about the most recent incident today, because you and I were talking offline, and you had some incidents happen just as early or as late as today.
Yes, as I was coming out of worship, I got a phone call that some teenagers were doing wheelies in the streets, and so somebody got out of control in their car and ran into our fence that we had just put up because of threats of violence against our church, and we received a grant from the Governor's Office of Non-Security, which is also funded by FEMA. And so the fence was actually finished a couple of months ago, and now part of it is torn down because a car ran into it.
What role, Dr. Grizzell, does the church play overall in trying to mitigate or prevent some of these things from happening before? Because although you're a victim, you almost are obligated to step up to the plate to stop this from happening to another congregation or another church. Because it seems to me these kind of incidents are very targeted and specific at black churches. We don't hear oftentimes these things happen in white churches.
No. Well, we, of course, we're working with white congregations, and not just the church that I mentioned, but other congregations we're working with to try to help them understand, because actually they need to understand us. We understand them. I mean, we see them on TV, we see them, my mother worked for white people, so I know who they are and how they are. but, they don't know us. They don't know, all they see is, what they see on TV and what they hear, on the news, and so what we're doing and working with, this Episcopal Church is to, get an understanding so that they know who we are, and of course, we already basically know who they are. But
What advice would you give other preachers and leaders who may be watching, who may have, or perhaps may experience what you're going through or what you've gone through? What advice would you give them as they kind of talk to their congregations about the realities that we face in 2021 and beyond?
Well, I think it's really good to have an opportunity to work with a white congregation and trying to develop that kind of cohesiveness and togetherness. I think that is really good, and because they do need to be educated into how we really are. And they need to understand that they are privileged. They are privileged. And of course, we need love. We need love. It's all about love. God is a God of love. And all through the scriptures, he is indicating that love is the answer. Love is the answer. I'm hoping to see, and I know I probably won't see it in my lifetime, the beloved community, not just when we go to when Jesus comes back again and everything is gonna be okay, but a beloved community now. We need to get rid of all of the angst and all of the hatred, which I don't believe we have so much hatred, but the white people do. And it's really about jealousy. It's about control, power, afraid of losing what they have had all these many years.
But the black church still has power.
The black church has power. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you,
Yes.
Dr. Grizzell, for joining us here on the Christian Recorder.
Yes.
Certainly to all of you who joined us. I know at some point this evening we're going to speak to my hometown friend, Bishop Ronnie Brailsford. But until then, we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.